Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are totally flipping the script on how we talk about puberty. For a lot of us, growing up, this whole phase was treated like some dark, taboo mystery, right? Just a confusing, random list of incredibly embarrassing symptoms you kind of just had to endure in secret. But today, over the next 7 minutes or so, we're going to reframe that completely to build a really wholesome understanding of the topic. We're going to look at puberty as something so much more logical. It is an amazing, highly coordinated system upgrade. By the time we wrap up, you're going to have the exact tools you need to explain these physical and emotional changes clearly, naturally, and with absolute calm to any girl going through it.
Okay, let's look at our roadmap for today. We'll start with the built-in transition system. Then, we'll dive into the first big changes, followed by feelings in the brain. After that, we're redefining what normal actually means, and we'll finish up with how to explain all of this with confidence.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the built-in transition system. This is a plan, not a panic.
So the absolute core of this entire explainer, the thing we really need to anchor ourselves to, is understanding that puberty is the body's planned shift from childhood to adulthood guided by hormones. Think about it like a massive apartment building that's suddenly switching from a tiny backup generator to a brand new high-capacity electrical load system. The building itself, it hasn't moved. It's the exact same structure. But the electricity inside is being completely redirected because, well, the building needs to support way bigger, more complex demands. A growing girl is exactly the same person she's always been, but her internal energy is being purposefully, forcefully redirected toward adult development.
And this is where hormones come in. These are chemical signals sent by the brain, and they act like the ultimate expert management team. They literally travel from the brain through the entire body, telling different parts exactly what to do and, crucially, when to do it. It's not just some random cascade of chaos, even if it feels that way. It's actually a highly targeted communication network that's designed to trigger maturity at very specific milestones.
Moving right along to Section 2, the first big changes. Basically, the hardware upgrade. As this deep internal construction gets underway, you're going to see a very specific sequence unfold. Things like accelerated growth, breast development, changes in hips and body shape, new hair growth, more active skin and sweat glands, and eventually, the start of menstruation. It's literally like a school that suddenly shifts from a super laid-back normal class schedule straight into final exam season. The same students are there, but the pace, it completely shifts. Everyone's suddenly working overtime. And because of this intense pace, one system changes after another. So a girl might notice one major shift and then absolutely nothing else for 6 months. Her body isn't lagging behind, and it definitely isn't broken. It's just strictly following its own rigorous internal sequence.
Now let's talk about periods, because there is so much unnecessary worry and mystery wrapped up in this. Just think of the menstrual cycle as the body preparing a guest room every single month. It makes the room ready, puts on fresh sheets, fluffs the pillows, all because the biological system thinks, hey, we might need this. But if no guest arrives, meaning no pregnancy happens, the whole setup is just cleared out, tidied up, and rebuilt later. When you explain menstruation like this, it totally removes the fear factor. It proves that biologically, this isn't a medical emergency at all. It's just a perfectly ordinary, repetitive part of growing up.
But obviously, puberty isn't just physical, right? The brain is changing too. Which brings us to Section 3, feelings and the brain, the software upgrade.
So, the body is growing and changing shape super fast. But right alongside that, the brain's emotional control system is still very much under heavy construction. Imagine upgrading the engine of a car to be massively powerful, and then swapping out the steering wheel at the exact same time, while the car is currently driving down the highway. The whole vehicle is getting so much stronger, but until all those new parts actually sync up, the driving is going to feel incredibly bumpy. She's essentially having to learn how to steer a much faster car on the fly.
Let's go back to that house analogy for a second. Imagine you're living in a house while the entire electrical system is being fundamentally rewired. You're still sleeping in your bed, still cooking in the kitchen, but randomly, the lights just start flickering. Some rooms suddenly get way too hot. The light switch has become crazy sensitive to the slightest touch. Absolutely nothing is wrong with the house. It's just in the very messy middle of a massive upgrade. A girl going through puberty is trying to balance her entire life on a floor that won't stop moving. So yeah, of course her feelings are going to be intensely unpredictable. And that leads us nicely into Section 4, redefining what is normal. Think of this as our troubleshooting guide.
We really have to draw a clear line between two words that get mixed up all the time. Normal definitely does not always mean comfortable. A girl might intellectually know a change is happening, maybe she's read all the books, but she can still feel totally awkward and out of place when it actually happens to her own body.
Normal just means it's an expected part of the process. Real reassurance comes when she realizes that feeling completely out of place is, honestly, quite literally part of the design right now.
Because, body changes always carry heavy emotional meaning. It's not just chemistry happening in a vacuum. Her actual identity is shifting. Let's take a girl in Karachi as an example. Say she starts growing way faster than the rest of her classmates. She might start obsessing over how her uniform fits, tugging at her clothes, always wondering if people are whispering about her. That intense worry isn't just about the fabric of her uniform. It's about suddenly feeling painfully highly visible in a world where she used to just blend in. So whether it's feeling super moody because of stress and hormones, feeling deep embarrassment as her body becomes more private, or just dealing with uneven physical development, feeling intensely awkward about all this isn't an overreaction. It is a 100% normal response to a very uneven phase of life.
And this is exactly why comparing girls to each other causes so much completely unnecessary stress. You can have two girls, exact same age, sitting in the exact same classroom, and they can be at totally different stages of this upgrade. One might already have her period and look like a young woman, while the other still looks exactly like a child. Comparing them is incredibly misleading because you are not comparing identical systems. You're just comparing two internal clocks that happen to have started ticking at different moments in time. Normal is all about a girl following her own body's unique developmental pattern, not checking off boxes on some rigid calendar.
All right, bringing it all together for Section 5, explaining with confidence. This is your end-user manual.
It really all boils down to a massive shift in mindset. When a girl comes to you and she's upset or confused or frustrated, we have to help her change the core question. We need to go from what is wrong with me to what stage of change am I actually seeing right now? By spotting the larger, wholesome pattern, instead of getting hyper-focused on one scary symptom, you completely step out of the confusion. When you actually understand the underlying system, you don't share in her panic. Instead, you can just sit right beside her, validate that it's a bumpy ride, and offer calm, grounded reassurance that everything is going exactly according to plan.
So, to wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with one final thought. Puberty is just the body and the brain learning how to become an adult, together. It's not a mistake. It is absolutely not an illness. And it's definitely not a mystery once you can see the pattern. So, now that you fully understand the brilliant, highly coordinated system that's working behind the scenes, how are you going to use this knowledge to guide the girls in your life through it with totally calm, unwavering confidence?